Okay, this is part two of the series that I started. This is the Mythbuster. And I started out talking about Black people being dependent on welfare and government assistance, and that being the primary reason why there are so many single parent households because the story that we've been given, what we've been fed, and that is basically coming from the right, by the way, is that white liberals and Democrats have told the black woman to just kick the black man out of the house, kick him out. He's useless. You don't need him, and then go run down and get yourself some welfare, Section 8, food stamps, WIC, etc. Now, as I said before, the problem with that is it's not that simple to begin with. Number one, you have to qualify for these programs according to income. If the woman is gainfully employed herself and she makes over a certain income, she doesn't even qualify to get some of these programs. And even if she does, she would still have to pay. In some cases, especially like in Section 8, there would be a fee that she would have to pay. Her part of it was almost be like a copay situation. But again, it goes by income. If your income is great enough, then the part that you would have to pay or the amount that they would give you, like in food stamps or whatever, would be so low, it wouldn't even be worth it for a working person to take that kind of a back step and to put themselves in a worse position than they're already in working. That just wouldn't make sense. So that's the first thing you have to look at. The second thing you have to look at is the man in the situation. Why do we assume that the man was not already gainfully employed himself? Why do we assume that the man was totally incapable of taking care of the family? Why would we assume that? Just because he's black? I mean, there's no reason to assume that. And again, the child was conceived up under somebody's roof. That means someone was able to put a roof over their own head. Adults usually do that. That's what most adults do, is they're able to put a roof over their own head. Now, if the woman was at home when she got pregnant, staying with her mother or what have you, then chances are the guy had a place. If the guy is living at home in his mother's basement, chances are the woman had her own place already. And I say this because, not because of anything I read, not because of anything I believe, not because of just trying to be adversarial. None of that. I'm talking out of plain old life experience. Because I was that guy. I was that guy. I did have a child out of wedlock. I did have a son by a woman who was already on welfare. She was already on welfare. And she already had subsidized housing and the whole nine. Because she had a 6-year-old girl when I met her. And so she was already qualified to be on the program. She was not working, which I told you before, that has to go by income. So she qualified because she was not employed. And so she already had all that. So me getting her pregnant didn't mean that she had to run down and get anything. She was already on it, which a lot of women in a lot of these cases are if they have more than one child. But beyond that, when she did get pregnant, she didn't put me out because I was never there to begin with. And I've told people this before, it is impossible for someone to leave somewhere they've never been. So to say that this man left the woman, was he really ever there? That's the first question you have to look at. I wasn't there. I had my own place. I had my place, she had her place. Like I said, two consenting adults, 9 times out of 10, They're going to put a roof over their own head because they have to. It's called survival. So that's number one. So she did not put me out. And no, we didn't stay together. I walked away. That was a decision that I made, that I take full responsibility for, that I have to live with for the rest of my life. Um, I decided to do it because we were incompatible. We kept bumping heads with our personalities. I knew we were going to keep bumping heads. And I knew that one day, knowing me, that I would probably get fed up and I would walk anyway. And the only difference was going to be, was I going to walk now while he was a baby and didn't and never knew me to be there on a regular basis and not have to go through the trauma of watching me walk away? Or was I going to do it later and put him through all that? And my choice was not to do that. I'd already experienced that with her daughter. Her daughter had gotten really, really close to me. And the day that we broke up, and well, one of the times that we broke up more than once. One of the times we broke up, when I was leaving, she wanted to leave with me. She started crying because when children see the two people that mean the most to them, the two people who are supposed to be protecting them and taking care of them and nurturing them, when they see those two people squabbling and one is going to leave, it's a very traumatic experience for children. It's not anything I take lightly. It's not anything I think any man or any person, period, should take lightly. So I didn't want my son to have to go through that, what I saw his sister go through. So I made a calculated decision to walk then. Was it the right decision? Probably not. Many would argue, I should have stuck it out. But that's a decision I made, and as the saying goes, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But the bottom line is, the government did not put me out. And she did not put me out in order to continue to receive services that she was already getting. And it isn't just me. That I'm bringing it home personal because, just to let you know that I'm not talking about something that I'm pulling out of my butt. I'm not talking about feelings. I'm not talking about, it's not conjecture. It's not a straw man. This is what I actually experienced. And she wasn't the only woman on Section 8 welfare that I ever stayed with. She wasn't even the first, because before I ever had a child, I had stayed with other women who had children who were on Section 8 welfare, food stamps, WIC, the whole nine. And the same thing happened there. And one of those I actually lived with. A couple of them I actually lived with. And it was the same story. I was not put out because they needed to stay on the program, and that was the policy. That had nothing to do, the government had zero to do with why I left. I left because I wanted to leave, period. Or we busted up and it wasn't my place. So of course I had to leave. What do I want to do? I'm going to break up with her and stay there? Of course I had to leave. Once you break up, once the relationship is over, somebody's got to go. That's the way that works. So the government had zero to do with that. Zero. And while I was staying at these places, I saw a lot of cars. And you can easily tell a man's car from a woman's car because women typically don't put on a lot of tint on their windows. They typically don't jack the car up. They usually don't put wheels on it. Big sound system. I mean, that's a man thing. Anyone knows anything at all knows that's a man thing. Women typically don't do all that. So it's very, very easy to distinguish men's cars that are parked in front of the projects at 3 o'clock in the morning from women's cars. And most of the women don't have them anyway because they can't afford them if they're in that situation. So I wasn't the only one. It was me and all the other guys. We were all staying there. We were all shacking up, laying up with these women on welfare. We were all doing that. And none of us were forced to leave because the government told us we had to. If any of us left, it's because we wanted to or we were put out by the woman because of irreconcilable differences. And so this is what I would like people to do. This is what I want black folks to do. And I'm dead serious about this. Because this myth has to die. This myth is all it's doing is dividing us more than we're already divided. And we don't need to be divided any more than what we already are. So I'm going to ask you all to do this in my next segment. So please stay tuned to part 3.